So the poll is still running. I can see that every one of you is just putting your response up right now. Thank you. Thank you. Keep it running. We're just going to keep the poll open for another minute before we end the poll and get the results. In your opinion, which of the following have been the worst crisis seen so far? This was one of the questions posted to us, so I thought we can get some ground response. We had the dot-com bubble, we have the SARS, Asian financial crisis, Lehman Brothers. I'm not sure how many of you have seen one of the cycle or all of the cycle. Even if you have seen all the cycle, you're still very young. It's just about younger and young. And then the second question is comparing the above, COVID-19, is it anything worse off that you have seen before, or you feel that it's just something along the line that is part of the cycle? Okay, so last 30 seconds before we end the poll. I think Kelvin and Ismail is very excited about tonight. It's something that have never been seen before, that we are doing something across the industry to let people come and ask questions and we answer. Really, we want to feel the ground, the heartbeat of Singapore and Singaporeans and everybody that's vested in this country itself. And we're good. So 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end the poll right now. Don't worry, if you're not voted, there's going to be more coming along the way. Yes, I see some comments. It's a different crisis every time. We agree. So I'm going to share the results to let you see that what every one of us feel is about us. Okay, so looking at the poll result for the first one, which one do you think is the worst crisis seen so far? I think we have quite a close tie between the Asian financial crisis and Lehman Brothers. SARS and dot-com bubble is something behind. I think perhaps due to the period of time whereby the impact is, and also it's maybe something that's very different as well. I think I'll let Ismail and Kelvin answer that differences. And then comparing the above, do you think that COVID-19 is worse than those seen before? I have a resounding response that most of you will say yes, 668 of you, 67%. Some of you feel no. Maybe you can type into the chat box why you feel the other way around. And some of us are unsure. Nothing wrong, because why? We are not at the end of it yet, so we are not taking stock. Okay, so we are good with this poll. Hi, Kelvin and Ismail. How's your evening today?
Yes, was an amazing day, busy day, I must say. I was on live radio in the afternoon about, again, a little bit on the current market and so on. And I think, yeah, I'm just looking forward for this session. And I'm actually right now, as I'm seeing, there's more than 1,600, 1,700 people have logged in. I just really hope together with Kelvin do justice in the next 1 hour or so. And when I went through some of the questions, I think we have got more than 200 questions. And I'm just not so sure how are we going to answer all the questions, but I think Eddie has done a good job. He has clustered some of the questions because many are repetitive, but asked in different language, different way, but all into the similar concern. Yeah, we'll take it from here, Eddie. Yeah, I'll pass it on to Kelvin. How was your day, Kelvin? Unmute, Kelvin.
Yes, I think, okay. Good. I think today will be a very great session because I think this is the first time that we are doing this. I think because we have run so many different kinds of seminars, I think a lot of people really want to ask some of the questions that in their heart they wanted to find out. And that's the reason why we decided to do something different. That's why I told Ismail, why not we do something like a Q&A? So at least we can find out the needs of our clients so that from there we can share our point of view. So really looking forward to answer some of the questions that you guys have been wanted to find out, hopefully through the sharing session that we have, through our opinions, through some of the numbers that we want to show, maybe give you a better understanding. All right, so without much further ado, I think, Eddie, I shall hand over to you because time is important to all of us.
Sure. So before we begin, right, I think we just need to just tell everyone that tonight is nothing about buying any particular property, but just to answer the concern of people and then on the questions that they posted to us. Okay, without much further ado, we're going to go in because we have quite a fair ground to cover so that we want to cover all the questions that have been asked. The first one is quite tough. So I just want to ask Ismail and Kelvin to be ready. The first one. The number one question. Okay, so people in the group itself, I'm going to do this. You can type into the chat box. The first question is this: will prices drop? Comparing this COVID-19 situation and the Lehman crisis, which do you think is worse? Who do you guys want them to answer the question? Do you want Ismail or you want Kelvin to answer? You can type into the chat box. I can see and then just pull anybody out to just address this issue itself. Okay, I'm seeing some feedback coming in. Okay. I think is quite a tough one, but I think I'll just put our CEO to take on the hit first.
Fine. Thank you so much for all of you voting and chatting. I think this is really a very lively session, and I'm really thankful for this idea when Kelvin prompted this to me and said, why don't, rather than we always conduct seminar and make people hear us, rather than we listen to the ground, and exactly is what he said. Okay, the first question, let me go to the question. Will prices drop? I think you don't need me as a CEO to say that. I think I know right now almost 2,000 of you, everybody, almost most of you are expecting prices to drop, but we will go through to say, even if it drop, how much is it going to drop? Comparing this COVID-19 situation and to the Lehman crisis, which do you think is worse? Okay, I would like to look at it from a real broad perspective, Why do I say that here? First and foremost, the time era is different. Lehman crisis 2008, 2009. In fact, if you go a little bit more backward, what is more comparable to our current coronavirus would be SARS. I think not forgetting SARS 2003, but they are all not the same. They are definitely not the same. Let me very briefly, let me highlight all the three. Let me take a SARS and as well as a global crisis versus current crisis. What do I feel here is this: during SARS, actually, during SARS, Singapore was very much more affected because we had more people passing on within a short period of time. Really, there was a huge concern and sentiment really deep. In fact, SARS, the property prices were really low. Just to give you an example, in 2003 or 4, if you had the opportunity to buy the sale, the per square foot is $880, $850, $900 per square foot. No doubt we are talking about almost 17 years ago. But even at that time, people were hesitant to buy at $900 when it was launched because the sentiment was weak. But SARS was not a pandemic like right now world over. This is definitely unprecedented. During SARS, Singapore did not go through a circuit breaker. But however, even SARS, what happened here is this: after it lasted for about 2 years, the sentiment was weak, 2003, 2004. And then the market started to move. By 2007, within 3 to 4 years, we hit the next peak, really the peak. That means the property prices almost double, in some areas exceeded double. And that's how it took, because the sentiment brought down the price, but it was more of a few countries affected, not a world pandemic, but property prices went down. Within 4 years, it went down. Then when we talk about the Lehman crisis, the Lehman crisis was 2008 and 2009. In fact, the Lehman crisis lasted shorter period than the SARS. SARS took a slightly more longer period, about 4 years before it reached to the peak and started to move. Lehman crisis only lasted 1.5 years. Because why? People panic, but the prices dropped. The prices during Lehman crisis dropped more sharply as compared to SARS in a very fast trend, simply because when Lehman crisis came about, people were so worried because they didn't know where's the bottom, because it was about a financial big capital instruments and financial market of America and those that are intertwined in Europe. People were so worried. People didn't know how this complex financial instrument is going to impact the whole world. Therefore, people started to dump their properties, and some businessmen and investors were equally concerned. And that's why when more people started to dump, that means supply more, demand is less. What happened? Property prices dropped very fast. That is what exactly happened during the global financial crisis. But again, what happened was the global financial crisis, within 1 year plus, people come to realization the bottom is not that bottomless, because it was very much confined to America and Europe market, and Asia was doing exceptionally well. China was booming, so was India. And with all the Asia market was very strong, immediately within 18 months, property prices started to move and then we went to the peak in the next 4 or 5 years until the cooling measures were introduced in 2013. So what am I trying to say here is, we talk about SARS. SARS was not world pandemic, but sentiment brought it down. Global financial crisis, prices dropped hugely, but again, it recovered very fast because it wasn't an Asian problem as such. What about right now, COVID? This is world over. I mean, if you look at it on the coronavirus live data, 100 over countries world over is affected. From Europe to UK to America to Middle East to Australia to Singapore to Asia Pacific, the whole world, which is not very specific to a country. That is the first point that I'm trying to say. Therefore, people are accepting a norm that people are not coming to a panic situation of dumping. Who want to dump? Everybody in the whole world have to dump. Unlike the global crisis or Asian financial crisis, a certain market is affected. This is the whole world. So people are much more calmer right now. But people are concerned. People are concerned about how long will this take. That is $1 million question. How will it impact the industry and the economy? We are talking about the airline, the retail, and how long will it take to rebound back? Yes, it will take a little bit more longer as compared to SARS, or for that matter, global financial crisis, because this is world over. But the thing here is this: these crises, because people are not panicking, and that's why property prices are not dropping in a similar scale as the SARS or the global financial crisis. I mean, I will just stop here because if I keep talking, then I ended up talking for half an hour. So answer, maybe Kelvin, you may have got something you want to add on onto this, because I think the host straight away started with a big topic, so that maybe you can give your views on this.
Sure. I think at this point of time, everyone, if you go out to look for anybody to speak to or survey about the market, survey whether the property prices will drop or not, I think out of 10, probably 8% will tell you, I think prices will drop. I think this is a very common situation that most people will actually think about it at this point of time, because very simple, because of fear factor, that a lot of people will have this kind of concern that most people will think, is it the right time? Is it the right time? But you have seen that probably I just maybe use one of these slides to just want to share with everybody, so that at least we can talk while we understand better.
So you prepared some statistics to show, is it, Kelvin?
Yeah, because for me, I think it's better for me to show you some numbers. I think it will be better for me to talk so that everybody is clear. Of course, whatever I share with you here is based on how I feel, right? But at the end of the day, I know very well that every different crisis, of course, there will always be different things that we are talking about. Because if you look at the SARS period, right, if you look at here, so technically speaking, we see that the SARS period actually has dropped about 3/4, almost 23%. But you can also see that after that, it actually rebounded again for the next up or so. So at the end of the day, right, if you ask me today, how much do you think that the prices will drop? It's not about dropping, because today buying property is slightly different from the past. Why do I say so? In the past, there's nothing called seller's stamp duty. So basically, of course there is, but it's just at a different time frame. And the seller's stamp duty is just based on 3% or whatever amount, which is so much lesser than compared to today. Today, if you were to sell, for example, on the second year, it's going to be 8% of the selling price. Last time is on your profit margin. So somehow or other, it has done what? The government has done a very good control. That's why you can see from here, the cooling measure. This time round, I'm not saying that the price will not drop. I'm saying that even if it's dropped, do you know how to go and research on the prices? Why do I say so? Is because due to all the different government cooling measure, a lot of us here who are maybe own 2 or 3 properties. If you ask anybody on the resale owner, I want to ask every one of you today, if you have a house to stay today and you are owning a property, do you want to sell cheap? And many of the customers out there, if I were to ask them, they say, no, I don't want to sell. Why would I sell? To be honest, if I sell already, what can I buy back? Because I'm suffering from total debt servicing ratio, TDSR. I'm also suffering from what? ABSC issue. So at the end of the day, with all this thing in place, Why must I sell at a lower price? That's the reason why you can see that the resale transaction actually has lowered down. Why? Because a lot of owners today are holding on to property. Why? Because with the lower interest rate, there's no reason I want to sell. Because I have to be very careful. And you can see that, look at today, the so-called situation here. Our government has done one thing right. First, our government is something that they will definitely control the market well. You see, they give the developers 6 months to actually delay the ABSE issue so that they don't have to pay the penalty. They also give a lot of homeowners who think that you cannot afford in terms of you are maybe crisis period that you cannot afford the installment. What do? They give you time frame. They give you so-called exemption of paying your installment. So which means what? They are trying to cushion the effect of every one of them who are facing this kind of situation. If you are giving 6 months to 8 months, don't need to pay your installment for the time being, do you need to sell your house urgently? That is the next question. That's the reason why it's not like last time. Look at all this period. You can see that the price may have dropped like Lehman crisis. Why? Because I want to tell you, last time I buy my property under my parents' name. What do they need to do? Just show 200,000 to the bank. The bank will grant them the loan. They're not even working. So, but today, can you do that? No. So that means the speculators is already gone. Speculators. Today, those who actually afford to buy properties are what kind of people? They are someone who can afford to pay. And the most important, they do what? They have their total debt servicing ratio. That's why government very clear, 60% of your income. This is, what is their objective? The objective is to curb speculation. That's the reason why you can see from here, this period, the up and down is not as speculative as last time. Why? Because of the cooling measures in place. So if you ask me, yes, I think that some of the properties, maybe owner may be desperate in terms of selling. But is that going to be a lot? I don't think so. My personal opinion. Why? Because they don't have the urgency to sell at this point of time because they're giving time frame, right? Like I mentioned to you, I mean, this whole saga here, how long will it last? So it's a little bit different from the previous cycle, which is the global Lehman crisis. It's also different from the SARS period. You can see how much the government is coming in to support the country to cushion this effect of so-called tough period. So generally, if you want to see a lot of lay long out there in the market, I can say it will be very difficult if you ask me. That is how I feel. No right, no wrong answer. But definitely, if you're looking for something in the resale market, you probably really have to go and search, really go to the ocean and find. Especially if you're talking about mass market property, that means those people who are generally staying in the mass market, like west side, east side, or north side, right? All these are homeowner stays. I want to ask every one of you who are sitting inside here, how many of you want to sell your house cheap one? You just have to ask yourself this true opinion. As a buyer, you always want to buy cheap. As a seller, you must understand, why must I sell cheap? So there is always a plus and minus in between. So I must say that our government has done something right, which is they ensure no speculation. So that is the reason why I see a difference compared to the past. Past, not much control. But now, the government control is very tight. That's why it actually has helped to ease off speculation. Last time is different. I still remember very clearly during the Lehman crisis, you can buy sale at $1,200 per square foot. From a $2,000 plus per square foot drop to $1,200. Why? Because that time is a speculation market. But today, you can't speculate one. Because we last couple of years, those who buy property, right, they are all under the regulation of TDSR. No speculation because they know that they can't, because they also will not see to throw their property away. Because why? Because of their income, 60%. So somehow or other, it has already cushioned all this effect. That's how I feel, right, Eddie? I mean, if you ask me, will it be the prices will drop? I can only say one thing. most of the sellers today will not anyhow increase their price to sell. That's the only thing, right? The only question is whether do you dare to go in or not. Like I mentioned during one of my talk, at the end of the day, this is a good time for you to see, but also a good time to do a lot of control measure. That means do more financial check. Make sure that you are prudent in terms of purchase. Make sure that it's a safety net being prepared for yourself. In any situation, we definitely do not want our customer to speculate. That's the last thing that we want to, right? So this is how I feel, Eddie. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Ismail and Kelvin, for sharing the differences between the various crises that we have seen so far. I mean, you mentioned that some is a global pandemic, some is a local financial, some is a local Asian contained thing, and one is a financial fundamentals. So each of these things are different in their core that impact the economy in different ways. But key thing is that regardless of whichever market, right, we advise people to take certain precaution. And the government have put in place a seller stamp duty, which Kelvin had mentioned that people that bought before have already prepared to hold the property for minimum 3 years or more, because that's a requirement by the government to hold it to prevent any additional tax that have to be paid if they sell. So that's what I think Kelvin is meaning over there. So I think that's quite good, well answered. I think definitely we just provide a little bit more insight. The complete answer will have to depend on your personal individual situation. So before we proceed to the next question, right, I think something very interesting. I just did it suddenly. Let me do something very, very shortly. Okay, because we mentioned about the crisis, right? I just want to know that before we come in with the opinion, right? Maybe I will need the audience to help me with this so that I understand the demographic of the people over here. I mean, maybe you can share with me your property status. You can be owning a HDB, own a private property, or owning multiple property. It's all right. Or you're looking to buy a first home, or you're going to wait. It's nothing wrong. We just want to let all the viewers here know, because we are doing a lot of posts, to know the opinion of everyone here, and then to know who are they with, so that you get a more complete picture of who you are sitting here tonight. We just do this in 1 minute. It's quite fast. I'm getting the response pretty quickly. It's 30 seconds in. So just another 20 plus seconds, we can stop the poll.
Okay, Eddie, while they are doing the poll, let me just share something, because I'm also looking at some of the chat and the questions. People are just asking about that we are talking about, are we being too optimistic and so on. We never rule out there's a possibility of price dropping, okay? But what we are trying to say here is this: the current situation and the government rules, policies, and cooling measures all put in place is in a different era. But one of the key things, people have also asked this question: what about if I lost my job? But put it this way, losing job has got not only because of COVID crisis. A person can lose a job due to technology advancement. It could be economy can be booming, but one of our trade will become irrelevant in the industry, and there could be many situations. But obviously, in a recession, and if you lose a job, finding a replacement will be a concern. So these concerns are very valid. Therefore, we never, and I for one will say, whoever who wants to buy and invest property, even though crises do provide opportunity, but each and individual will have to do your assessment. You must have that reserve. Even if you buy, you don't overstretch. You have a buffer in the case, even if you lose a job, based on your ability, for the next 6 months later, 1 year later, you find a job, can you finance? These are all really fundamentally important for each and anyone to consider. Yes, Eddie, back to you based on your poll.
Okay, so we're going to share the results right now. Nothing too much about the results, just to let everybody know that who are we with tonight. So this is the demographic of people. We got quite a good spread between the HDB, the private property, and the multiple property people, so that we just want to understand, so that when we give our inputs, we can address to each and every one of to the people here. This is just the meaning of this poll itself. I think what Mr. Ismail has shared is very important, is that this thing, when we are in danger, when we are in, it's a Chinese saying, even when we are in a safe condition, we need to think of the danger. That means even when there's no situation arising, we must always plan for a reserve fund, because like what Mr. Ismail said, unemployment can arise from different situations. It can be a career switch, it can be a sabbatical, it can be anything. So I think that's good. So we'll proceed on to the next question. I just need a poll so that you all can, okay, Kelvin?
Yeah, Eddie, sorry. Maybe I just want to share something here. Of course, we are not trying to be very optimistic about all these things, but this is a time that you should actually look at some of the thing that you, before you buy a property. And that's the reason why, maybe I just share one more screen for everybody to take a look. This is our system, right? This is our system that we have developed for our clients. So any of our PropNex agents, if you have actually talked to any of our agents here, they can actually probably advise you by running through all the numbers, so that at the end of the day, they know how much CPF you have, how much cash you're available. So you can even work out what's the best property prices that you should be buying. Eventually, very important, because why? Whether, like what Ismail has mentioned, whether crisis or no crisis, we also must do protection. We must always look at our what? Safety net. That's the reason why this particular asset planning calculator, which is called our RAM system, is able to help each and every one of those customers out there to work out what is your safety net. Like for example, the bottom, that means if you were to buy a property, I'm not so sure, right? If you are to buy a property here, let me see whether I can screenshot this. Okay, if you look at this, let me see. Right, if you can see from here, the calculators allows you to work what? After minusing all the necessary funds that you have, how long can it last you if you are working? What happens if you are not working? How long can it last you? So there is a best scenario, there's a worst scenario. So based on number of years, based on number of months as well. So what you need to do here is what? In any circumstances, whether is it COVID or not COVID, all of us must do all this due diligence check. That's why all the PropNex people, why are we creating all these things for our agents, right? So that to help our clients to do planning. What we want is to ensure, right, whether what kind of situation. I can tell you, good time, everybody never think about all this. But when bad times, or even worse, that means you must even do all this check. It makes us become what? More careful in terms of purchase. So to all those people who have just now mentioned about all these concerns, I can definitely understand. We are not optimistic, but we just want to be very careful. All the agents here should be able to advise you the worst scenario, the best scenario, if you're working and not working. So just to update everybody. Thank you so much, Eddie. So this is something for them to take note of.
Thank you, Kelvin. So just to prepare for all situations in all times. Okay, so we are moving on to the next question. Actually, the poll was just to let you all take a breather. The question is a bit hard tonight. So we did this just now. So for those that just joined us, we had covered a very difficult one. Don't worry, the coming up one is going to be even more difficult as well. So with the recent newspaper article, I mean, it's a survey in the newspaper. They surveyed a couple of developers. They asked, do you think that developer will drop prices? So I think there's two groups of people that's asking this question. One of those that they could have committed to a property in a development already, or they are thinking of buying something. So they are seeking your opinion. What do you think about the recent survey? Like we have done before, you can put into the chat box itself that who do you think you will want to answer the question?
Okay, maybe I start this, Eddie. I think let me give in a very broad perspective. Again, I want to be as measured. I don't want to be overly optimistic about things by saying that. But the question here is this. I remember reading this article, and it was actually done by NUS Real Estate. It was a simple poll survey asking people, what do they think? Will the prices be dropped? Obviously, actually, you ask anyone anytime in a crisis, surely people will say it will drop. And neither will I say it will not drop. Okay, put it this way. Our first quarter, the URA price index dropped by 1% for the January, February, March. Because already the pandemic was announced in March, and there was some kind of a crisis, global tension, and this was expected to spread further. So we had already experienced a 1% drop in the first quarter. Then the next thing here is this. Nobody can exactly say when the pandemic will be over. It could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. I don't want to speculate either. But then for the rest of the year, how much are we expecting the property prices to drop? My opinion here is this: at its best, we will be those buyers who are waiting for prices to drop. If prices can drop by 5%, it will be a celebration for all of us, or even those buyers who are waiting to buy. And for those of you who are expecting prices to drop 10% or more, I think you will be hugely disappointed, in my opinion, because I think it is not likely to happen. I will tell you why. Simply, I already said from the macro perspective. First and foremost, even just because of the 2 months of circuit breaker, developers are all forced to close the show flat. The government have extended another 6 months for their 5 years time frame to sell all the properties. 2 months you cannot open show flat, but you get 6 more months additional time frame. And second thing, developers generally have 5 years from the time they buy the land to dispose of all the properties. As long as this pandemic is only expected to last, let's say 8 months to 12 months to 18 months, I don't see an urgency for developers to dump the prices. First and foremost, when the cooling measures were announced on 5th July 2018, I'm talking about just barely less than 2 years ago. Today, because of the supply, developers are already pricing it so sensitively, and I must tell you, in fact, some of all the recent launches that is in this year was launched, the margin of profit that developers place is about, some are single digit, some are low double digit. Therefore, I'm talking about 8% to less than 15% is the profit margin developers are building in. Therefore, if you expect property prices to drop by 20% or more, I don't think it will happen. Why it will not happen? To start with, margin of profit is small. Developers have already put in a land cost at a high land bid price. Second thing, they still got another 3 to 4 years to sell. Then you said, Mr. Ismail, what makes you so sure? When the recession hit, everything hit, everybody will have to drop price. Then I will ask another question. You look at it, our Singapore government. Right now, we have got so many restrictions. Even Singaporean buying a second property subjected to 12%, foreigners buying 20%. If the market is really dropping, will we not, the government, likely to, though it may sound speculative, likely to ease some of the cooling measures? Just by helping, let's say, Singaporean buying a second property from 12% drop to 5% or removal, already the demand increases. Okay, so we are trying, in our opinion, we have seen that. Why am I bringing and talking about the government? Not because I'm anchoring and using the government to tell a story, but put it this way, Singapore is such a small country. What do we have? Is property. In the world, Singaporeans are the highly owned properties. Therefore, it is in the interest of this government to ensure property prices are resilient. But I'm not saying that the government will guarantee property price increase. Property prices can drop, but it will not make sense for property price to drop 20%, 25% when all the bank and all other people are all subjected to, and the whole Singapore will see. So broadly speaking, I think the developers will hold the prices, and if at all there will be minor correction. My personal opinion, for the rest of the year, property may only likely to go down 3 to 4% maximum.
Thank you. Thank you, Ismail. Kelvin, do you have anything to add on to this question itself?
I think just to add on, I think majority of the customer may not understand how the developer work, because that's the reason why you can see most of the development, right, that's during launch, whether during good time or bad time, right, basically you can see that the price that they actually sold, right, is actually based on almost like break even or slightly above the margin that they are talking about. You, as a customer, all of you must understand that there is a pricing strategy by the developer. Eventually, they will look at different level, there will be a different price tag. Good facing will have a different price tag as well. So, of course, those who can afford to buy something good, generally you are paying a higher price tag. They may give you a good discount, maybe due to this situation. But maybe this kind of property or this kind of unit that you are buying, I want to ask you, if you are buying a unit that is directly facing a tennis court, maybe, for example, or maybe the substation, it's almost like $200 per square foot that is lower. The question here is, will you want to buy that kind of unit? Because buying a property is very easy, but to sell is another concern. Of course, you say, Kelvin, I don't mind to stay there. Of course, I cannot stop you. But I'm more concerned is in the future. And why is it developer? You can see they may sell you at that kind of lousy unit or not so good facing unit, right? At that kind of price. But you can see at a different level, the price jump again, Why? So that they can actually has a buffer in between. And I think very important for all of you here is that maybe you can look at one thing. Why the developer cannot sell way below the market price? Let me just share with you one thing. Even talk about EC alone, right? Maybe because I better share something so that at least you can see from the informations. Right, let's say we talk about this Park Canberra EC. All right, basically, if you look at Park Canberra, by right, the market is actually not in the right frame of time. Actually, during this was launched during February, if I'm it's probably in February, right? It was not a good time because already COVID actually started. But these developers still managed to sell 60%. And let me share with you, this is what they are sold. They're based on their break-even price. You can see it's $954, which is 954. The break-even. The developer break-even price. But you can see, right, eventually, this is the latest sold based on April 2029. It was sold at what price? This is the price. So, by right, the market is bad. The developer should sell way below market price. Really? Why not? They are selling $800 per square foot. Why not? Because you really think that the developer will reduce the price in this way. But I just want to let everybody know, not we are trying to support the developer, no. As a buyer, all of us want to buy low. I can tell you, because I buy property, you buy property, we definitely want to buy low. But you all must understand one thing here is that the developer, when they develop something, when they buy over a property or a land, they actually need to promise the bank a certain average selling price. If they don't actually fulfill the average selling price, actually the bank will not grant them a loan. And that's the reason why you can see most of the development in the market today, they have to sell a certain price. They can afford to sell you 1 or 2 units, those second floor unit at that lower pricing. But you can see the next level they are jump will be high. So the question here is, whether would you want to buy that kind of unit? That is the only thing. But ultimately, if you look at it, averaging wise, they still have to sell within that kind of average selling price. I mean, I cannot say that the developer won't drop price, and I cannot say, but the more, the probably they can do here is that 1%, 2%. But if you, actually, I always tell people, actually, it's not so much about buying a property. At the end of the day, for those who are buying a property, I know that property is sometimes for your own stay. But you also must understand, right, is when to exit. That is also very critical. Because buying a property now is, even if you buy today, you cannot sell. Even the market goes up next year, you cannot sell also. Even 2 years later, you probably won't sell because there's a SSD involved. So again, when the market is good that time, I see a lot of people make money. But I also see a lot of people did not make money. Because why? During the exit point, when the market was good, the customer will think, I should sell higher price. The market is so good. But you see, when markets start to slow down, their prices will what? Slow down. So what I'm trying to say here is what? Even if you buy today, most important, we are looking at long term. We are not looking at a short-term time frame to buy property. If you're looking at short-term, then I would say that it's better don't do anything, because we are into the speculation mode. Ultimately, like I mentioned to you here, generally, if you ask yourself this question, if I'm buying long-term, then yes. And the news to tell everybody here is that you see the developer, now the government has introduced another thing for them. They allow them to what? Have a 6-month grace period again to sell. So if you look at this kind of situation, when it's the bad market, actually the government also came in to support the developer, to give them some leeways to actually do so-called their pricing. So it will not make them that kind of stress that they need to do anything. Ultimately, you can see all the government is very clear one. They do not want to crash the market. but they just want a very gradual growth in terms of market. Of course, as a consumer, as a buyer myself, we all hope that the developer sell and don't make money. That's the best, so that we can buy something that is very cheap. This is how we wish it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, there is a certain requirement by the developer. And that's the reason why you can see different years. You can see last time you can buy Orchard Road, right? 1,200 per square foot. Honestly, at that point, 1,200 also very expensive. But the question is, if you were to buy that point of time in 1,200, you probably make money today. But so every time, every crisis, there is always a lot of people having a lot of fear, which is normal. But most important, we are not here to educate you to buy. We are more willing to ask you to do one thing, is to start to research. Look at information that will make you have a better understanding to decide whether should I buy or should I not. Let you go and decide. But I want to tell you, you see, from the numbers you can see, they generally did not sell cheap. Basically, today developer, they can only do one thing. Around break even or slightly above averaging, they will probably make next. Probably they don't even make or make that little much. That's what they can do. But you can see when the market goes up, my friend, everybody will chong one. They will go and rush to buy property, right? But when market is down, people will start to see. So what I can say here is that, my friend, you can only do your best to go and research, start to see more numbers. That's what I just want to take this opportunity to share, right? Okay, Eddie, I pass it back to you.
Sorry, Eddie, I got one thing. I think I'm looking at some of the question and answers. People are saying that, hey, 45 minutes ready, please answer my question. I'm trying to make short and snappy answers if I can. I think the last 30 minutes, Kelvin and myself tried to give the macro perspective, and these are all the fear factors. And there can be different opinion, we respect that. That's all right. Go on to simpler questions, straightforward questions, where a lot more people, because I look at the poll, almost 34% are HDB owners, and as well as all others, we want a lot more questions to be answered. You just shoot, and I will just say our opinion.
Okay, I think one of the quick one is that they mentioned, because we talk about the developer-based selling price, right? They are using an example. Park Canberra, since Kelvin says 60% sold. In the past, it used to be 100% sold out at launch or maybe within the 2 weekends. So now this indicator that is only sold 60%, does it mean that there's a price correction needed now for ECs?
Okay, maybe I'll answer that question. Obviously, it shows that people are prudent. That's the right thing. If in this market, if we still sell 100%, I think we don't know what to say about people. So this is, in fact, but what would I have been worried if in this pandemic, if EC only 10% buy, not 60% or 20% buy, then we can say people are really worried and they're not. Therefore, I think a 60% purchase is a very strong signal despite the uncertainties of the outcome of the pandemic. So again, therefore, if it's overpriced, knowing the fact that developers break-even price is 900 something, he bought the land at 500 over plus his land cost and his break-even, there is no necessity for him to sell at any lower than $1,000 and losing money, as he got still a lot more time. And you know, EC is a privilege, a Singaporean privilege. All the developer need to do here is the balance 35% of the units he don't sell. If nobody wants to buy, he don't sell. He continue to construct another 24 months is completed. When the house is completed, the keys are readily available to collect. Many HDB owners can upgrade, and within the next 24 months, the pandemic is over. Maybe he will sell at 1,200 per square foot, because after all, the base 2/3 he has already sold. He can settle the bank and whatever it is. He is home run. So I don't think it will cause any concern for him to bring down the price. We move on to another question.
Okay, so I think we can go on to the next one that's coming up. I think this is quite a private question, but then I think it applies to certain people. Will I be able to buy a private property if I'm above 50 years old? Or maybe what's the age limit to upgrade from a public housing to a private property? I just generalize the question because I'm getting a lot of questions, right? 51, 52, 53, what is the right age?
Oh, okay. Maybe I will say quite briefly, and then I will let maybe Kelvin add on. I just try to make it about 2 minutes. I don't take too much on this particular question. Actually, honestly, if you're 50 years, not that bad. Actually, 50 years is the most ripe, matured age, I would say. But obviously, if you're 40, it's good lah. Why not? I mean, if you start early. But if you're 50, my next question here is this: what is your credit worthiness and what are your assets you're holding? Can you imagine if you at 35 years old or 30 years old, 20 years ago, bought a HDB and today the HDB has gone double, or maybe you bought a private property? So it's very individual. Therefore, I think 50 is, or even if you're 55, is perfectly okay, but you must make your own assessment. What is your employability? When is your retirement? These are all very important questions, because at 50, you can still get a 20 years loan or 25 years loan if your down payment is 45%. That means the loan quantum you're taking is not huge, and I think you shouldn't take a huge loan. If you're 50, 55 years, and I think I would suggest don't go and take 80% and stretch yourself. And I think if you have an asset, you dispose of your asset and you accumulate your wealth, and your CPF got 200,000-300,000, a capital appreciation of 200,000-300,000, you dump the $500,000 and then you upgrade to a property that has got a better upside in the next 15 years. And nobody says you must stay there until retirement up to 80 years. From 50 to 65, maybe that's appreciated. Then you may want to downgrade to a smaller place where you're happy, and then you make the money. Therefore, 50 is a good age. 53 is a good age. It has got to do with individual, your current asset, your current financial position, and your outlook of your employability and your economic contribution you could do. Sorry, Kelvin, anything to touch on?
I think just to add on a little bit here is that at the end of the day, don't bother about the age first. I think important is to work out the financial by your agents. Look at the reserve fund, whether how much can you last. I think that is more than enough.
Agree.
Thank you, Kelvin and Ismail. I think we are good with this one. So I think main thing is to be prudent regardless of what age you are. Take into consideration your investment horizon. When is the time you want to stop taking too much risk? And that's our advice. That's the most important thing. So we'll move on to the next question so that we can cover more things. We took the last one is because every consumer webinar, right, that question came out and we never ever address it. So that's why we took on that one. Okay, so now this one I think is in the group chat as well. They are saying, with the economy going to be impacted, what do you think about the resale market for my property in future? I think this couple of participants, they already own a property, could be a HDB or could be a private property. They are saying that economy going to be impacted, employment or whatsoever. What do you think about resale market? Because we touched on, just now we touched on the developer. Will they be dropping prices? What do you think about resale market?
Okay, maybe let me just address very briefly. And again, I try to be as short. That's why sometimes, honestly, I think right now we have got almost 2,500 participants, listeners, and so on. Unfortunately, some of our answers may not give justice because I am very conscious about the time as well, as we want to address many questions. So let's go and talk about the resale market. First, public housing. As Eddie, the host, said, asked about public housing. You know, the public housing since year 2013 to the last 6 years have been negative. That means the property price has dropped. Only last year it went by 0.1, not 1%, 0.1. So generally speaking, public housing, in my view, will keep pace with inflation, and the government want to make sure the next generation and the younger people are able to afford. Our parents bought public housing at $50,000 40 years ago, went up to 100,000. People bought at 100,000, went up to 200. Those people who bought at 200 went up to 400. But I'm saying public housing, those people who buy at 400 now, you don't expect it to go to 800, not in the next 10 years. Not in the next 15 years. Because if it goes up at that pace, then the next generation will not be able to afford. So what is the government doing? The government is managing the public housing price to be stable by providing more BTO flats, build to order. When there are more build to order flats come on, there is a greater supply. The resale flat prices will not go hugely high because many newly married couples have a choice. Either they buy a BTO, which is lower price, or they buy a resale with additional grant where the government gives. Okay, so what will happen to the property prices? Therefore, the difference between the new launches and resale, I see one of the basic difference. In new launches, the developer have a time frame to hold on to the price. Therefore, he will stick to the price and slowly he will average it out by increasing when the market improves so that he can attain an average overall GDV, gross development value, for his project. Therefore, there's someone who's holding on to the price. Resale market, let's say now I talk about private property. One of the biggest challenge of the resale market here is this: nobody is able to hold on to the price, because somebody would have bought this resale property 15 years ago at $900. Today, someone, and the new launch can be 1,005, but someone in the resale market in a dire needs because the child wants to go to London or he lost his job, prepared to sell at 1,002. Therefore, when people are able to sell at lower price, and yet they are not losing money because they bought it lower 10, 15 years ago, and that's why the resale market price movement is very much in a smaller pace. Okay, so in a nutshell, I think generally, again, developers are creative. Developers try to be sensitive in pricing. Developers try to come out with creative, throw in star buys and so on. But individual resale market owners are emotionally connected, and generally they don't drop prices. Neither do they ask huge prices, and nobody will pay because there isn't a benchmark. Therefore, I think in the next 6 to 9 months, resale market will just meander without going a huge up or down. Okay, if at all some correction will take place when people are desperate to sell. That's the way I look at the resale market. Anything else to add, Kelvin?
I think I leave it because the time frame is I think you have answered most of the very important G's. But I think generally, if you look at the look at the private property market, right? I think we must understand one thing, because why the prices actually hold, because most of the mass market owners are staying there, so there's no urgency in terms of selling, and that's the reason why the prices are actually holding it very strong in terms of the resale market. Because we have seen in Lehman crisis period, we have seen in many different area, different timing before. If you can see, right, generally the speculative area may have a more pricing drop, but if you look at the residential area, generally are stable when even due to COVID situation. All this can be answered by looking at charts information, because we have went through different cycle, we have seen how the prices react. So for those people who really want to buy something that is very safe, residential area generally are very safe because owners stay, not speculative. But if you want to go into speculative area, definitely you have a chance to go higher. You can also have a chance to go downward as well. So that is the challenge that we have to bear in mind. So it depends on risk taker, what kind of risk that you are talking about. But like I mentioned, as long as you are buying something that you can actually look at all the facts and figures, which I believe that the agents should be able to advise you, so that you can have a better, clearer picture of whether yes or no to look into. All right. So this is how I feel.
Thank you, Kelvin. So moving on. So talking about the resale market, the next question that came in was, there are landlords among the participants as well. Will my rental property be affected with this crisis? So they are thinking, what's happening to all the tenants? Will the rental rate drop? Will the vacancy rate be higher, etc.?
Okay, maybe I can just try to answer this question here. Is that, of course, in this market downturn wise, generally I would say that rental, definitely there will be a $100 to $200 differences drop. What I can show you here is that this is a car. Okay, sorry, showing the share screen, Eddie. Yep. So of course, if you look at the rental market, I just get my staff to actually did the research for you to take a look at, so that at least you are clearer in terms of the numbers. How is the rental market moving forward, right? So if you can see, right, this is the rental occupancy rate throughout the whole Singapore. As you can see from here, generally we are quite different in the. I mean, if you look at the number, the color wise, if you look, let me see, where's my pen, right? If you look at this blue color, this is referring to the CCR, right? Right? Okay, this is referring to where? CCR. But if you look at the green color, this is referred to the RCR. Then if you look at here, will be the OCR. So if you look at the numbers, generally, if you can see, the occupancy rate is still quite strong, 90%. Of course, you can say this based on now. Maybe subsequently, not sure what's going to happen. We have gone through many different cycles of the real estate. We can also see that at the end of the day, like what I mentioned here, is very simple. As long as you are not greedy in terms of your rental, all rentals can go. It's about the question mark is how much you ask for rental. Some people will tell me, Kelvin, my mortgage here is $3,000. My rental is only $2,500 a month. I have to top up the $500 in between. Is it safe for me? So before you buy a property, because a lot of customers have this concern. If I buy a property, what if I cannot rent out the property? Or what happens if my rental is shortfall of my so-called mortgage loan that I need to pay? So I always tell people, at the end of the day, very simple. Work out a worst scenario. Like for me, when I buy property, I don't look at the, wow, very positive, next time I can rent out $3,500. If the market today rental is $3,000, I may put down $2,500. If the rental market is $3,500, I may put down to $3,000. So what you need to do here is that, if based on this, you need to cough out $500 a month. Ask yourself this question: are you comfortable? But if you're not comfortable, then please don't buy, because you are at risk. Because at the end of the day, you must be able to know if this amount you fork out, are you comfortable? Second, when this $500 that you pay, where does this $500 goes to? Remember, when we buy a property, we take a loan from the bank, there is a principal that you need to pay. There's an interest that you need to pay. As long as I always like to, when I buy property, I always ask myself, if my rental is $2,500, as long as the tenant can help me to pay an interest of $1,000, my principal is $1,500 or maybe $1,000, for example. If I need to top up, $1,500, right? If I need to top up $500 on myself, because this is let me just, this is, let's say for example, your principal is $1,500, your interest is $1,000. As long as the tenant pay my interest, my $500 that I pay goes to where? Principal. Maybe the interest, no, I say, Kelvin, where got so low? $1,500. Doesn't matter. Here is 1,000. As long as, very simple, anything that I top up goes to my principal, I always take it as what? Saving. Force yourself to save money. But if you feel that $500 every month is very heavy, then better not. So this is how I look at it. If you look at rental, as long as you're comfortable with this, generally I feel that it's safe, right? So this is how I look at the rental market in a different area. For those who want to see it clearer, so this is not, this is just now I mentioned to you here. Basically, this is the rental market in a different zone to give you ideas that how is the occupancy rate being taken. So if any one of you here have any concern about rental, remember, play it down. When you buy a property, don't hope for the high rental. Always look at the worst scenario. Then that will be safe, right? For me, this is how it works. All right, so thanks.
This concept that you share, right? Because some of them are asking. So this concept that you share, that actually if our rental is not matching our mortgage, actually we didn't lose money. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes. Just like my books that I wrote, right? I always talk about real estate as a saving plan for me, because I like to look at it. If worst come to worst, I ask myself, this money that I top up, where does it go to? As long as it goes to my principal, I'm happy to top up. Because why? It forced me to save my money in the bank account. At the end of the day, when the market goes up, I sell away, all my money will turn back. To me, it's like an endowment plan. Instead of you putting maybe in the insurance, you just put it into the property. That's how I feel. So to me, this is how I look at it. Especially today, the interest rate has dropped. At least you have a very, very good. If any one of you need any help, our calculators, any PropNex can be able to show you your interest, your principal. You can work out the numbers to see yourself whether you are comfortable or not. You will know all the answers from there. So this is how wonderful our system can help all the customer to. That's why everything that I talk, everything that you work out, everything can be calculated. Just look at all the calculation. Ask yourself whether you are safe or not. If you are not safe, don't do anything. That's how I feel. Yeah,
Thank you, Kelvin.
Eddie.
Ismail, you got anything to add?
No, it's okay, fine, good. I think move on to the next question. Let's clarify more thing for people.
Okay, move on to the next question. I think I like the illustration from Kelvin that you put in $500, the tenant is putting $1,500. So every $1 you put in, the tenant is putting in $3 into your principal, your savings account. Okay, so the next question coming up is that I'm a HDB owner. I'm really very concerned about the HDB market. Will the price of my flat be affected?
Okay, maybe let me give again a very broad perspective of public housing. I think we briefly did mention. Is there another question on HDB? Maybe I see. Is there any other question?
Okay, leading on from this is about the flat being 30 to 40 years in age.
Continue to
hold
or wait for en bloc. What am I? Okay, I will just probably both questions we try to kill it because of again time. We pass 1 hour and so on. And to all the HDB owners, first and foremost, I want to say it is not wrong to stay in HDB and retire and we are happy. Many of my friends, many of my relatives are staying in HDB. So let's accept that, because Singapore is one of those most fantastic in terms of home ownership, and public housing plays a huge vital role. The question here is this. Then if you ask me, how come, Mr. Ismail, just now you said our forefathers bought at 50,000, go to 100, 100 become 200, 200 become 400, but then you say for the last 6 years, HDB prices has been negative since 2013, even though there wasn't any huge pandemic or crisis. Why didn't the public housing keep going up or even keeping pace with inflation? The answer was simple. Because the government realized the public housing has moved up so high, so much so some of the younger generation find it so difficult to come and enter the market. Therefore, the government decided to come out with greater supply of BTO and sustain the price. Therefore, in other words, I think public housing, whoever who buy now a new BTO or new or resale flat, chances are public housing will keep pace with inflation, and therefore marginal growth, though last 7 years has been negative, this year I think is going to be flat. In next few years, probably it will go 1-2%. At the end of another 10 years, maybe HDB prices will go up by 20%, assuming inflation has gone up by 20 to 25%. So, and I think it's the right thing to do. I don't think public housing should be speculative as an investment angle for people to buy at 400, sell at 600, and then 800. Then what will happen to the next generation of our children? Therefore, I support the government that public housing is meant to be sustainable and price growth in a small keeping pace. Then the key question here is this. What happens if my HDB property is already 40 years, going to be 50 years, because it is a 99-year leasehold property? And will the government replace me with another house? The government cannot promise every single HDB owner, and we are talking about million HDB owner, that when your lease finish, then I give you another replacement house. But obviously, when a HDB flat become older, the government have an option to do an en bloc and give you a replacement unit, but by paying you a fair market price for your current property. So what am I trying to say? If you're HDB, you continue staying now, already 40-year-old, you stay for another 20, 30 years, balance only 30 to 40 years. At that time, even if you get a compensation from the government will only compensate based on its true value of the balance 30-year lease, not today's price. A 30-year balance lease maybe only 200-300. So that amount you're going to get. But if you are going to buy another 99-year leasehold property prices, you will have to top up or you have to shrink the size. So that's the way it is going to be. So what is the difference between private property and HDB? So private property 99-year lease, there's only one difference. Private owners collectively can come and put into an en bloc sale. We have seen that at Tampines Court, or we have seen that at Normanton Park, and you have seen that at how many billions worth of properties went en bloc in a good market. So private owners collectively can sell to a private developer who buy the 99-year leasehold with balance 60 years or 70 years. He top up the lease, paying the government the premium, and then he redevelop it. And that's what is happening. But HDB, you can't do that, because as your lease keep dropping, there's only one person who can replace it, which is the government. And the government will have to look at overall demand. The government cannot replace for everybody. So that is the subtle difference between the HDB property prices of 99 years leasehold dropping, and as well as the private property. And second thing is, I think public housing property prices will be moving in a very much controlled pace of keeping pace with inflation or thereabout, not in a huge increase.
Thank you, Ismail, for addressing this question. I think the government has put in place a replacement of the SIRS, is the lease buyback scheme. So it's telling us is that it's the way to go forward. Okay, we'll move on. Since we're on this topic about en bloc as well, the next question, coincidentally, he's thinking about getting a property which may have en bloc potential. What do you think? He's thinking of going big or going home.
Okay.
Maybe I can answer this. Okay. I think a lot of people has this thinking process that maybe I should also buy an en bloc property, because you see the last cycle here, a lot of people actually make money through en bloc. Maybe I can also take this opportunity to show you something that about en bloc as well, because so that you know the numbers, how the number work for en bloc. All right, so if you look at this, Eddie, just to maybe those people who want to find out a little bit more about en bloc here, this is the en bloc since 1995 until today, 2019. So there is only two rounds. One big round which is here, one big round is actually here. So if you want to really go and buy an en bloc property, first you must be very careful. First, the last cycle has one en bloc went through. A whole jing gang of en bloc went through. I'm not saying that there will not be any more en bloc. I think there will be, but the numbers may not be great. I'm not so sure. But I look at the cycle. You look at the whole chart here, tells you one thing, that it is quite clear to show you that the number of en bloc is not as every time you can see the huge number. So what is the critical part that all of you must take note of? Because en bloc property, generally, the rental market for old properties are normally weaker. And because the last cycle of en bloc, many owners actually position their price actually a much more higher. So if you want to buy an en bloc property, you have to ask yourself this question: how highly chance that your en bloc can run through? Make sure your rentability is able to support your mortgage for long. Because why? We do not know when is the next cycle of the en bloc will run through. So this is something that you must be careful. For example, Normanton Park. Normanton Park, almost 3 to 4 rounds has been wanted to en bloc but not successful because of the price they want. In the en bloc property, there is also a bit challenging here is what? You need so-called 80% of people to approve, and the price must be all willing to accept. If there's 1-2% who does not agree, that means the whole process doesn't run through. So en bloc cycle is a very fast-paced thing. Once it's taken over, no more, the chances will run away. So for those people who want to think about buying en bloc, first you just need to make sure that your rentability is strong. You can hold on to it, because generally because en bloc, those older properties, the size are bigger, so the quantum is also bigger. Your rental income may be smaller. So this is a concern. Second, your purchase price must make sure that you really do some research so that you are careful in terms of your purchase. So this is because why? I cannot tell you, you buy sure you en bloc. What happened if never en bloc? Because some property went through 3-4 rounds, still cannot en bloc. So that means you're going to stuck that property over there for the next 3-4 times. And the next 3-4 times, you can see is how many years. So this is something that you may want to be careful when it comes to en bloc properties, because I look at it now, the en bloc owners, those who are actually selling older property, generally their prices are, I would say they are asking higher now. So you have to be very careful when it comes to purchasing this property. Right, so this is how, Eddie, I just want to explain about en bloc. I just want people who want to buy en bloc, you just need to be careful in terms of your mortgage. Yeah.
Maybe I add on to this en bloc. The other thing also, if you're younger, is good lah. I mean, if you're 30 years, 35 years, if you want to wait an en bloc in the next 10, 15, 20 years, maybe you have a better chance of an en bloc taking place. The other research that you will also have to do here is older property doesn't equal to en bloc success, because there's a master plan, there's a plot ratio, there's a height restriction, and there is some other thing that may change the usage and so on. And you may have some limitations such that the development, you cannot go to an en bloc because the developer may not be able to optimize due to certain conditions or restrictions. So you have to do a little bit more research. You need to understand more effectively before you can play this game. Ken, move on, Eddie.
Okay, I think leading from that question, since we are talking about en bloc leads to supply. So I mean, I just get a sense from the ground. Do you think there'll be an oversupply situation in Singapore? Because it was asked in the chat, so maybe just get the ground. So Kelvin, so leading from your en bloc sharing just now, right? They are also concerned is that the supply of developer launches.
Yep.
Will they incur ABSD? Do you think with the amount of supply in the market itself, will developer be able to sell out and afford ABSD?
I think I saw the question that was being asked. Maybe I just want to take this opportunity while the rest of the people, you can actually just fill in your question marks here so that I can share with you numbers. Because at the end of the day, I think for me, show you some numbers, at least you're clearer how the developer works in terms of the numbers, whether would there be an issue or not. Let's look at the number. All right, so on this is our research that we have done. Basically, we look at the numbers. This is how it works. So for those people who are thinking that maybe your en bloc issue, due to the last cycle, there is a surge in terms of the supply. So will developer be affected because of the ABSD revision? So looking at this chart, I just want you to know one thing. Based on here, there is 29 units so far at the moment that is going to be affected with the ABSD issue. But luckily, the government give them another 6 more months to sell. So they are not so-called affected. So next year, total 276. All this will give an extension another 6 more months. The main bulk of numbers actually will be here, 10,000 units. So as a buyer yourself, you will definitely think, am I right to say this? If given a choice, if you want to buy a property, which year will you buy? Everybody will look at 2023. Why? I believe I'm quite sure that every one of you will put 2023 right? Because there is a huge supply that is going to face ABSD issue. That means the developer may have to sell cheap. At the end of the day, they need to lay long. But just to update everyone, you are not wrong to think in this way. It's based on a broad perspective to look at this. But if you look at the numbers, these numbers eventually will fall. This number will come down. This number will also come down. This number will also come down. This number will also come down. So the question here is, can the number of units be sold within the time frame? So that's why you need to understand that there is a total unsold supply in the market about 29,000. So the question is, based on 29,000, can we manage to sell this in this unit? 7,000, can we able to sell or not in 4 years? The question is this. So based on the past history, last year, 9,000. This is where the government control the measure. So the number dropped. 2017 is about 10,000. So basically, the numbers that is very small is here. These are all the new launches sold every year based on statistics. So this is the number that we are talking about, which is 7,000. So of course, based on today's market, now we have about 7,008 units to be sold every year. So the question here is, can this be sold in the next couple of years down the road? So of course, you will say, Kelvin, what about en bloc? Just now I mentioned to you, now en bloc sure date, am I right? As a developer, many of you, if you today are a developer, would you actually wanted to do anything to buy land now? Because of uncertainty, you also will not, right? Actually, how the developer work is very simple one. When the government open the door, developer go and buy land. That's where you see a surge come out, right? But of course, you will say, Kelvin, no en bloc, but government land sales also can come, right? So again, this year, government land sales only this number, 1775. Confirmed lease for first half of the year. First half of the year. So based on this, plus the 29,000 units available in the market, these are confirmed numbers, right? So the question here is, are we able to sell 7,005 units per year? It based on now the situation. Maybe you say, Kelvin, this one round cannot. Maybe only sell 6,000. So you still have another 3 more years plus what the government actually is doing. So the government is also giving extension to all the developer for the next 6 months. So if I can find all this research, I'm very sure the developer can also find this research. So they will know how to make sure that the time frame is given. But I want to ask you a question here is that, of course, at the end of the day here, this thing will not so-called, this so-called crisis will definitely end somewhere. I'm not so sure when, maybe 1 year later. But if you look at all the different saga, normally it's 9 months, 1 year down the road, it will end. So when this thing ends, will the market become better? So just in case some of the people may not understand the number, I just want to take this opportunity to share with you the real numbers so that you know how the number work, whether will it make sense for you or not. These are all purely from URA. We cannot run away because we tabulate. So that's why our research behind us actually will do all these numbers so that what? To give certain assurance to our customer who just want to understand better. All right. Ismail, you have anything to add on? This is what I just want to share with them, the numbers.
No, I think generally you're right. But I think based on, in fact, if you say 1 year ago, the unsold units were 36,000. Now, as of the first quarter, it has dropped to 29,000, with the en bloc market being literally dead market. And therefore, what am I trying to say? There is an inherent demand for Singapore's private property. Okay. The million HDB owners, some of them are prepared to upgrade because of lifestyle. Foreigners are coming into the market. Even during the circuit breaker period of the last 5.5 weeks, there were more than 200 new launch units were sold where the buyers did not even go to the show flat, looking at it in a virtual tour of the show flat, and who and why are these people are buying that. I'm talking about a circuit breaker period. Therefore, if you say the 7,000 is a low numbers proven consistently, and based on that, I'm very, very confident, not being really overly bullish and optimistic, looking at the supply and as well as the demand and as well as the drying up of the en bloc in the next 3-4 years, the existing stock very likely to be absorbed. That's my conclusion. Ken, Eddie, yours. I think you should do a time check, and I think maybe ask another 1 or 2 questions in all fairness to everybody, because tomorrow is again a working day.
I think we covered most of it. So there was one last one regarding the rental market question is in the Q&A in the chat box as well. So they are saying is that, okay, in the short term, they are expecting like mass unemployment, foreigners going back. So our prediction of, actually we use the example of the rental rate dropping by $100, $200 as an example. So he's asking, what is a realistic point of view that a landlord should lower the rental price in the future that happens?
Okay, maybe I will give it a very broad gut feel. And in fact, in one of my consumer empowerment seminar, I always say that all investors and buyers who are buying a property to rent it out, and I want all of us to be entrepreneurial landlord. Let's be entrepreneur. I mean, we think like an entrepreneur. As you notice, when just now Kelvin shared, CCR stands for Core Central Region, District 9, 10, 11. RCR is rest of the Core Central Region, just the surrounding of this area. And OCR is the outside. All areas, more than 90% are being rented out. Which means to say, if there are 10 owners in your estate, in your condominium is going to rent out, 9 of them can rent it out. 1% struggle to rent based on the statistic. Even though if it drops, my next point here is, even if you say because of this little crisis, some of the foreigners are not able to come in and so on, there is a slow stop for the time being. I don't think this halt will be forever during this period of time. Even if the percentage from 92, 95 drop to 85 or even 80, for every 10 units, 2 units cannot be rented out. Okay, then my question, if you are in this condominium and there are 10 owners who are renting it out, all I'm trying to say here is this: please don't put your price the highest asking or the second highest, because likely your 2 property is not going to be rented out. Neither am I saying ask the lowest, not necessary. Go in the middle. If let's say in your bedroom size goes for $3,000, the highest guy is asking 3,500. Okay, and average median is about 3,000, and I think, and the lowest can even go 2,928. You should ask somewhere about $3,000 or 3,100 or even 10% lower. And if I am a tenant, I just want to share this. I mean, sorry, even if a little bit more direct, since you say it's the last question. I'm owning a property in the eastern part of Singapore, and I fully paid up the loan in the last 20 years. And right now it's 100% paid up. And for the last 19 years, I'm renting it out, because only 1 year that I did not, I stayed there. And mean that over the 19 years, I've gone through the SARS crisis, I've gone through Asian financial crisis, I've gone through Lehman crisis, but throughout the period, I'm renting it out. And during the SARS, what Kelvin said is really right. The rental that I rented, I was shortfall to pay the monthly installment, but I choose to dig out from my pocket to top up $700 every month. But today, I'm renting it out close to $4,000. I have fully paid out. So it's completely, I keep the money. In fact, when I was still paying the mortgage, I was collecting rent 3,850, but my mortgage was 2,500. I still make some money. So the key thing here is this. And throughout the 18 years, I have never had 1 month my unit not rented out. In fact, there were times that the tenant left on a Saturday and the new person come on a Sunday. Why? I want to be an entrepreneur landlord. When any tenant come, I tell my agent, whatever they ask, I give. Logically, rationally. I said they want a new dishwasher, I will give it. They want a new washing machine, I will give it. I will change a new hob and a hood, I will do it. Because you know why? A hob and a hood is $400. A washing machine is $400. If the tenant rent for 2 years and I just take 24 months time, $20 is $480. So I want to be an entrepreneur landlord to make my tenant happy. And as long as I come with this strategy and I don't ask the highest price, and I am extremely confident, even if the rental market from 95%, 93% drop to 80%, I'm confident to rent my unit. That should be the strategy that we should adopt.
Thank you, Ismail, for your sharing. So I think they will be keen to know where is that property that is commanding such a rental yield. Okay, I think that's just jokes aside. I've been getting a lot of questions about commercial property, landed properties, eastern sector, western sector. I think we would like to address this, but we may not have time today. But we do bear this in mind. We keep it with us. So if we do run another session itself, I think we will address that itself. Okay, maybe Ismail and Kelvin, is there any parting words or anything to sum up for today's session?
Okay, so I mean, first and foremost, it is already 1.5 hours. I still see more than 2,000 or probably 2,500 at the earlier stages. I just want to thank you, and I just want to say a big sorry for those hundreds of questions that I'm not, and Kelvin and myself don't have all the time. But please rest be assured, speak to any of our PropNex salespeople. They are trained. Even if they don't have the answers, they can reach out to us, and we will be able to guide them to give you all the answers. And maybe even as you just sign it off, give us some feedback. How was this session, and what kind of questions you'd like to be answered? Obviously, landed property is in a very strong segment, but why we didn't have time to touch on it? Because there are very few group of people, percentage, only people can afford. And today we have been trying to touch all the macro and everybody's major concerns. So will it be for industrials or commercial. We will always can line up other experts from our company who are focusing in landed areas, commercial properties together to be in the part of the panel together, either with Kelvin or myself or together to answer all your questions. Once again, wishing each and every one of you a great evening, and please keep all your questions coming forward and ask, and you will be answered. Kelvin, say something.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to end off here by saying that buying a property is not just for speculation. At the end of the day here, do all your financing well so that you will not have any concern subsequent. Important that I saw some of the questions coming here and there. Basically, I know that at this kind of time, there's always a lot of fear factor. So the most important is speak to any of our PropNex people to help you to work out the numbers. As long as the number makes sense to you and you're comfortable, then you go ahead. But if it's not comfortable, don't force yourself, because why? Buying a property, we must all be happy. At the end of the day, when you are happy, the property will give you more money in the future. But at the end of the day, you can see all those people who have done well or reach and become richer is eventually through properties as well. So I really hope that all of you here is to make a very careful, but work out the numbers, so that at least you know very well that this decision that you make in terms of buying a property, you are very clear, because all these are factual information. All right, so thank you so much for spending your time with us. I just hope that you enjoy. Anything, feel free to speak to any of our PropNex people, so that they can give us feedback to us, so that we can help you to see what is the best situation that we are talking to you. Of course, this coming Friday, I will have another seminars that I'm talking generally a lot about resale market. If you want to join us, just let your agents know. This Friday, I'll be having a session to talk generally all about resale market. All right, thank you so much, Eddie.
Sorry, Eddie, I still got more than 2,000 people. All I want to say here is this Saturday, 3 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
This Saturday at 3 p.m., I'm sharing on leadership. And I'm going to share my journey on the leadership, how to build a legacy. In fact, I've conducted there are 3 more sessions. For those of you who missed the previous one, it's okay. If you can come this Saturday, I'm going to talk a little bit about leadership and my journey in terms of it. And next 2 Saturdays, I'm going to talk about a legacy planning as well. How did you create a legacy? So that being the case, stay tuned to some of our consumer seminars, and we are very, very happy to connect with all of you. Yes, Eddie, all yours.
Thank you, Ismail and Kelvin, for tonight. So for those that have not received the free ebook that we have put out to each and every one of you, the Timeless Gift and also the Property Wealth System, do get it from our PropNex salesperson. We have given out more than 10,000 copies. We really want to just add value to all of you. And as what Kelvin has mentioned, this Friday itself, we're going to touch on the logic of the resale property trends. So some of the questions about resale market we may not answer adequately, but this is something that we want to share. Thank you all for all being with us. Give us your feedback. Tell our PropNex salesperson in the next session, if we were to run one, how would you like to be? And do send your questions to them, and then we'll just compile it and do our best. Thank you, Ismail and Kelvin, for your time. Thank you to all the 2,500 people. To all my panelists, thank you for working so hard behind the scene, picking out the data. Okay, some of the posts quite ad hoc. We just want to instill some fun and just get some ground sense. Okay, everybody have a good evening. For those that have not had dinner, time to get something to eat. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fist. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. But she said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale.